just going onto the like Chrome or Edge or whichever one you'd like to use, we're going to look up Piskel. So this is a free online browser-based sprite editor with all of the functionality that we'll need to create our sprites. It's worth noting that there are some other sprite editors around. You can use things like Photoshop, or I suppose you could use Canva or something like that. Um, the bonus of this one is obviously it's free. It doesn't have all the functionality that you'd want in something like this, but it has most of it. One that is highly regarded as a decent one by the rest of the game development world is one called Aseprite. So this one here, this one is not free. I think it costs like $8 or something, so it's pretty cheap. If you do really enjoy this, it could be worth looking into. Okay, so we won't be using that one today, but I thought it would be worth mentioning. All right. So here we go. This is Piskel. We can actually just click over on this top right corner where it says Create Sprite. And we get a uh, brand new canvas to work on, okay? This one's really easy to use. I can just simply click and drag. And just like Windows Paint or any of the other image editing software you've probably seen, we can create some stuff pretty quickly. I can also right click to erase, all right? So what I'd like everyone to do is we're going to just create a really simple character. And you might want to do this, you could try doing this on paper first of all, and then seeing if you can copy it into the sprite editor. Um, but for now, I just want everyone to go about creating a really simple character using the tools available. Okay, so we can click over here to change colors. You can feel free to follow along if you'd like. I'm going to start by maybe we'll just design uh, something like this for his face. Maybe I'll try and create something that resembles hair. And you can see already I'm starting to run into some of the limitations of sprites. We're dealing with some of these points where the black dots are overlapping. These are called jaggies when it comes to sprite creation. Um, so what we can do is just right click on some of these to delete them. Maybe we'll bring some of those back. Here we go, getting something that looks quite cool. And then I'll just use 2 black dots for his eyes perhaps. And maybe this character, because they're so small, they won't even have a mouth, they'll just have some black dots for eyes. I can come in and choose a color for my skin, maybe something like this. Use the paint bucket, loop. You can also add new colors to the palette down here to make them easy to select again in the future. So I can come in and yeah, I can just click here. Cool. So if you choose current colors, it should allow you to go back and forward between the colors that are already in your image. Now, I think I'll give this character some arms. By the way, if you know that you want your character to be symmetrical for parts of it, you can use this mirror pen. So I'm just going to, hold on, we'll just change this back to transparent, and I'm just going to rub this all out. There we go, rubbing that out with the right click. So I know that I want this part to be symmetrical. So instead of using the regular pencil tool, I can change to this one here, vertical mirror pen. And now as I draw, you'll see it actually does it on both sides, which is really handy. Uh, Drawing arms, pun not intended. Cool, so something like that. Maybe we can make some, no, that looks dumb. Control Z obviously is a great way of undoing if you go too far. All right. So it can look a little bit strange looking at the character so close up like this. So what can be helpful is to look at the little thumbnail over here. This is the actual scale that the character will be. Okay. Now I'm going to go through and start to choose some colors. Um, if you are someone who struggles to come up with like really cool color palettes, there is a nice website I will mention, adobe.color. You can use this website for free to come up with some interesting color palettes that can help you to make these decisions. Okay, so here we go. This is this website I mentioned, Adobe Color. You can use this to choose a color harmony. For example, we could try something like complementary colors, and then this is a nice little color palette that it's generating here for us. If I know that I want this face color here, I can find out the hexadecimal code for that. It's just here. I can copy that to this website. Change color. Okay, here we go. So I can just paste it in here. And you can see that now based on that face color, it's generating this as my color palette, which looks quite nice. So I can easily copy the hexadecimal code for these things and start to use some of these colors. Oh, that's not it. And there we have it, a very nice simple character with a limited color palette. Might try this one here as well actually. So one last color. Cool. At the moment, I've got some sort of really basic flat colors and it looks all right. But the next step I would suggest is to begin giving it a little bit more variation in color, okay? So there's an option here, lighten and darken. So this option here can be really useful. As you can see, as I move over things, you can see it's making them brighter. It's adding a whole lot more colors though. Um, if I do it faster, it gets a little bit lighter as well. This is one way we can go about this. I would say that this is probably not the way I would choose to do the whole model, the whole sprite. What I'd tend to do is like maybe click once, twice, get a little bit lighter like this, get it to the point where I'm happy with it, and then use that color throughout the image, right? So changing to that color and then choosing the parts that I want to be that color. So you can use this to give little bright hot spots on some parts, specular highlights. Okay, maybe I can do some down here as well. Looks a bit weird there, might not do that. But yeah, obviously we can also go in here and use the shift click to create a darker color, or was it control click? Maybe it was control click. Okay, so we can get a darker color like this. Now I can get this sort of shade here that I like. And then once again, I'll change to the pen tool and start to use this color. So filling in some of the areas where I think shadows might work well. And you can see this starts to make my character look a little bit more three-dimensional. So under his chin would probably be a good place for sort of shadows to appear. Um, maybe these pants I can use some different colors as well. Get some dark colors in there too. You'll notice I'm not trying to make this part symmetrical. I don't think it would look as good if the shading was symmetrical to both sides. So having some brightness on one side and some darkness on the other is probably the better way to go about it. But have a play around, see what you think looks nice. Alrighty, so we've got our character and he's looking pretty nifty. The next step is to begin animating this character. So I'm just going to start by animating a really simple idle animation. An idle animation is basically an animation that you put on a character in a game so that the player is aware that that is a character. As you can imagine, if this character was standing still like this, the player might just look at that and think, oh, that's a statue. That's not something that I can interact with. Okay, so characters generally have idle animations. Keeping them alive, giving them motion, helps the player to know that those are important to the game in some way. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start breaking this character down into certain layers. All right, so at the moment I've just got one layer over here. This is called layer one. What I'm going to do is if I hold shift and click on this plus, that's going to create a clone of this layer. I can rename this clone head, and if I come into this head layer, I can use this rectangle selection to select everything that's not the head and delete. Okay, so something like that. You can see I've got the head isolated on this layer now. Jumping back to layer one, I can once again shift click the plus to create a new clone. In this case, we will call this left arm or just L arm. I'm going to delete everything once again except for that arm. And as you can see, I'm just slowly breaking this down into different chunks that will make it a lot easier for me to animate later. Cool, so that's the arm. We'll do that again. So shift clicking on the plus, R arm. It's interesting. I've called this left arm and right arm. If I was this character, these would actually be the wrong way around, right? But because I'm not the animator, I'm not the character, I'm the animator, and these are the sides of the screen I'm looking at. I'm just going to go with this, even though it may confuse some people. So simply selecting the things I want to get rid of with this rectangle tool and then pushing the delete key. This one can be my torso. For this torso one, I'm actually going to go through and recreate some of the things that should be in here. Okay, so I just want all of the stuff gone, but you can see I'm actually missing the part that's behind these arms. So what I can do is I can bring that back in with my pencil tool and create what would be behind those arms. Maybe something like this. I could use the vertical mirror tool if I want to make sure it's kind of the same on both sides. You can also turn off preview all layers to just look at the current layer and not get confused by what else is in the image. Maybe I'll delete some of this stuff. Trying to keep just a single line thickness for most of these pictures. And this neck can actually come up a little higher as well. There's probably no point doing an outline around that as it's probably not going to be ever seen. Oh, that's not the right color. Maybe this one. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so as I bring these other layers back, you'll see that that torso It should look pretty good in behind the rest of those things. So the arm and the left arm, the right arm, and the head are all in front of that torso, so it looks pretty good. Let's go maybe left leg, and we'll duplicate this as well, and go right leg. And trust me, this work is going to make animating a lot more fun. So that's my left leg. Let's get rid of this one. And because I know this is behind my torso, I can actually bring the pants up a little higher. So getting rid of this part of the shirt that I've got here. Mm, that's not the right color. Where's the color I want? Maybe if I turn that off. There we go. That's better. And finally, we'll do this right leg as well. By the way, you can just use O and then P. So swapping between O and P is a nice, easy way of just grabbing in the color you want. So I can click O and then P to paint that color again, if that's helpful. Awesome. Now we have our character completely broken down into layers. So that's a really useful step to start animating. And you can easily see the entire character by clicking on this one here. This is open preview and pop out. All right, this is going to be really useful once we start animating as well. All right, so we've got our character split up into some layers, and now I'm going to go ahead and start making an animation. So this is an idle animation. As I mentioned before, it's just going to be the character sort of moving subtly on the spot. Okay, so over on the side here, you can see we have our frames. At the moment, we only have one frame. I'm actually going to come over here to where there's this little double page icon. It says duplicate this frame. So we'll click on that one, and that's going to duplicate the frame from above. So frame one, we now have two copies of that, including all of the layers that are in part of it. Okay, so what I'm going to start with is I'm just going to take this hand tool, the move tool, and I'm going to move the head maybe ever so slightly down, just by 1 pixel. We can move the body down as well, maybe a little bit. And we'll leave the legs where they are, see what happens. Let's have a look at what that animation looks like so far. So quite weird, quite weird. We've got the body and the head moving up and down like this. Let's add another frame. Oh, not like that. We'll add another frame by duplicating this one. And in this one, I'm going to move the head down ever so slightly. Okay, so we now have a little bit of overlapping animation where the head is moving a little bit further. We've got 12 frames per second at the moment, which is maybe a bit fast. Okay, so we've got something happening. Might have the arms move down as well. So maybe just for that middle frame, we can have the arms both moving down. Boop, boop. All right, so it's starting to look like something. We've got the character sort of moving on the spot. It's quite a pronounced movement, but the problem with pixel art like this is that the absolute minimum you can move things is 1 pixel, which is how much I moved them. And it's already looking quite extreme, right? So maybe what I might do is come in and just move the head up again for that first frame. We can see if that helps a little bit. Now it looks like the head's on a really long neck and it's being slingshotted back and forward. So that might be a bit much, actually. I think I like the idea of it being moved down for the second frame, actually. So this is the fun of animation, though. You can play around, you can check how things look. Remember, at the end of the day, it's going to be this big on the screen, right? You can see this one here. Um, This is showing my 1 time size. We can go 6 times size if you want. But yeah, we're only ever really going to be looking at it this big. And from my point of view, that actually looks pretty decent right now. And obviously, another thing to note is that I can go into any of these layers and start to play with those individually as well. So if I don't like the idea of like the whole tummy moving down past the legs, maybe I can have the actual curvature down the bottom here changing. So OP. Now it looks like the tummy's kind of wobbling, but that's all right. And there's lots we can do to this. I could have his legs moving a little bit as well. He could even be moving side to side. But in terms of a simple idle animation, I'm pretty happy with this. Fantastic. So we have an idle animation working pretty well for this character already. Now it's time to export out this animation as a sprite sheet. And I'm also going to save this scene so that I can open it again if I want to. Okay, so the way to do that is you can see there's this little disk over here. So I'll click on that and I'll save it as a Piskel file, which is something I can, take, put onto my hard drive and open anytime I have a browser because this is a nice browser-based program. So we'll call this Chappy idle. Okay, save as Pascal. And you can see that that has downloaded this Pascal file here, which I can open up if I was to open another Pascal window. I can just go create sprite, and then I can go import, and we can go import, browse all Pascal files, and just find that one in my downloads folder. Um, cool, and there we have it. We've got this guy loaded in. Very easy to bring that back in, which is very useful. So now I can carry on creating my next animation without worrying about it, ruining what I've got already. So I'm going to go ahead now that that's saved, and I'm just going to delete the second 2 frames. So frame 2 and frame 3, they are deleted. I'm back to just having him standing completely still. And this time I'm going to start animating this character walking forward towards the camera. I'm going to start in a simple sort of manner, having the character sort of bobbing up and down, and I'd like to have the arms sort of swinging around the body a little bit. I think that would look really cool. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So we'll make a new frame duplicating the current one. I'm going to have the head moving down slightly. We'll duplicate this and duplicate it one more time and move it back up. So got the head bobbing. I think we'll do pretty much the same as what we had for the idle animation at this point. So the torso can move down as well. Maybe we'll have the torso move down in a different fashion from the head. So the head moves down slightly after it, I guess. Cool, so something like that. Now we're going to get through to doing the arms. Okay, sweet. This should be fairly easy. We're just going to have the arm basically start in this position. It's going to move through to a position like this. Let's go ahead and sort of draw it in, something like this. I'm not going to bother with colors just yet. I'm going to do those as a second pass. So just deleting some of this stuff. I know I want to start from over here and sort of finish here. I'll turn off the other layers so I can make sure I'm just working on the nice simple version here. And I can also turn off there's an onion skinning mode here that'll make it easy for me to work on my arm as it currently is. Okay, so I've got something like this so far. Might want a bit more of an elbow, something like that. All right, we'll work on the colors at a later stage. So Let's go ahead and do this one as well. So this one, if the arm swings forward on frame 2, then this one I'd like my arm sort of swinging back behind the body. And that's going to be interesting to do because you know that we've got our torso as a separate object here. Okay, so what I can do is I can start with the arm and just sort of delete a whole lot of stuff through here. So I reveal this part of the torso, this line here, and then I'm going to remove parts like this. So I'm just left with a thin slither, and I'll give that an outline. So that will make it look like the arm's going behind the body. Now I think this one here is probably a little bit too pronounced if we just look at the animation quickly. So when it swings in front of the body, it's probably swinging too far in front of the body. I'm going to tone that back quite a bit. Let's bring it back so it's only coming through to about here. That looks all right. So now I'm going to start doing the colors, starting with my hand color. Use my shading colors as well. And make sure I get the right colors for my shirt. I can actually jump to a previous layer and hold O to get my proper shirt color, and then P to use the pen tool again. And then I'll use my darker shade as well from this one. So O. All right, let's see how that looks. I think that's going to look pretty good. So you can see the arm is sort of singing through like this now. All right, so we basically just need to mirror that over to the other side. I think what we can do, there might be a way of doing that in such a way that you just copy it, but I'm not too sure with this program. Instead, I think what I'll do is I'll just do it manually. So I remember for this one we did something like this. Obviously, I want to do the opposite. So on frame 2 for my left arm, it was in front. So frame 2 for my right arm, I want that one to be swinging behind the body like this. And then for frame 4, I'd like this one to come in front. It might actually make the animation more charming if it is slightly asymmetrical. Um, our eyes are pretty good at noticing symmetry, and for something like this, it probably will look a little bit strange to have it completely symmetrical the whole way through. All right, so checking this out now, you can see my arms are indeed swinging through quite nicely. Um, yeah, pretty happy with that. Looks like they're swinging around. Next step is going to be moving on to the legs. So these need to be doing the opposite of what the arm on the same side is doing, okay? So when this arm is in front, as you can see here, so my right arm is swinging into the front, then my right leg needs to be moving backwards. So let's go ahead and start animating that. I think I'd like the shadow to get more intense on that. We can go something like this. And then the foot needs to be all the way back like this. I'm not going to bother too much with the shading just yet. I'd like to see how the actual animation looks before I spend time shading it. If it turns out that it's not looking so good, um, I don't want to have to, redo a whole lot of work shading. So just checking that foot out as it goes backwards like this. You can see I'm actually getting rid of the little pink bit of the lower leg because that's obviously being obscured by the upper leg there. I kind of want to have this part maybe come out a little bit thicker. Yeah, that looks good. And then we'll come through to frame 2, and this actually needs to be coming in front now. So he's sort of stepping towards the camera. I should probably be able to see the underside of his foot. Um, so maybe I'll have a bit more of the light tones here as this is coming out of the shadow. And then we will, let's see. Maybe I'll just delete this leg, and I'm going to try and imagine what this would look like. Sort of looking at the bottom of his foot a little bit. This will definitely be shadow. Yeah, I think that works all right. It's maybe not as pronounced as I'd like it to be when it's swinging forward, but if I do it too much more, it might look a bit over the top. Okay, and so just going through and doing the same on the other leg, and we'll see how that looks. So once again, we want to be doing the opposite of what it's doing on this side. So I'm going to trick the eye a little bit, make this just get a little brighter so it sort of feels like it's swinging forward. So I'm using these bright tones here. I'll turn off the layers so we can sort of see that it's moving out of the shadow. All right, let's see how that looks. Does he look like he's walking? Sure, why not? So at this point, I'd just basically start to tweak it a little bit, adding some of those different lights and shades to make it look a little bit nicer. But I think this will work all right for a moving animation, a little walk animation.